state your name, please?
My name is Lukman Al-Hakim.
Okay, so I have a series of questions for you to answer. Please feel free to answer comfortably for the answer questions.
Alright.
The first one is, what is your first language and how frequently do you use it in your daily life?
My first language would be Bahasa Melayu. Obviously, since I live in Malaysia, born and raised here. And my second language, do you want to know my second language?
Yes.
English.
English is your second language.
Second language.
Okay. Do you recall how you were first exposed to English?
I was exposed to English quite early, as long as I can remember. Maybe at the age like 3, 4. Not really. Maybe 4, 5.
4 or 5.
I would say that. I was exposed by my family, obviously, with them watching movies, all those kind of like dramas, films and all that. So obviously I picked up a few words, I started like using it in my daily life. I started asking my family, what does it mean? What does that mean? What does this mean? And yeah.
Okay. Between your first language, Bahasa Melayu, and also your second language, which is English, which would you say that you use more often in your daily life?
When I was in primary school, high school, obviously it would be Bahasa Melayu, since we're in Malaysia and that's like the native language. So I use Bahasa Melayu more back then. But nowadays, I'm in KL. So I work, I study diploma in TESOL at MSU. So I use English every day and more often. I feel like I use Bahasa Melayu now just when it's needed, because I'm more comfortable speaking English now. I guess you could say that's my first language now.
Do you think you adjust your language based on who you're speaking to?
I would say yes, you have to. Since like maybe Malay isn't like their first language or English isn't their first language. So you have to adjust how you speak with them accordingly to make sure what you want to say goes through them. So for example, when you're placing an order at a restaurant or something, maybe the worker that's like a foreigner or something, so you would have to explain it in like simpler terms. You can't talk it like not too professionally, not too casually, just enough. Like that, yeah.
So based on context and who you're speaking to,
Yeah.
you adjust it.
Yeah, maybe even with children, elderly or whatever.
Do you think you ever code mix or code switch between your first language, Bahasa Melayu, and also your second language?
Code switch as in how?
Okay, so code mix and code switch means you integrate both languages within a single utterance, or like a conversation, for example. Maybe like the whole sentence is in English, but then you have a word that's in Malay. Or within the sentence, you use both words of Malay and English.
I feel like that's a normal thing to do. I feel like most people do that. I try not to, because I'm not that. I don't know how to say it, but I'm more comfortable speaking like when I'm speaking English. I'd rather just speak English. When I'm speaking Bahasa, of course, I'd rather just speak like fully Bahasa. But surely there were moments when I talked in like Malay and then like I switched to English. Maybe like in one sentence I used Malay words and English words, for the whole sentence. So I would say I code switch. You call
Code
it?
switch and code.
Yeah. So I guess
You do it.
I do that.
Just unconsciously, what you would say?
I would say occasionally.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Not too like I'm conscious about most of the things, so I would say
you do it. If you do code mix
if
or
it's
code switch,
necessary.
you do it necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of interrelated to you adjusting your language depending on who you're talking to. You would
Yes,
say.
yes. Maybe like because we're in Malaysia, so the first language is Bahasa Melayu. Sometimes I'm speaking to someone, they're Malay. Maybe they understand English, and to a certain level, because what they do with their life, with their work and all maybe doesn't like, they don't use English that often, so it's not that high, their English, like, you know, how much they can comprehend. So whenever like there's like words that I suspect they would not understand, I would just explain it to them in Bahasa Melayu.
Okay. Do you think you feel more confident in your writing skills when you write in Bahasa Melayu or when you write in English?
English definitely.
Why do you say so?
Because I grew up mostly watching things in English with subtitles and all that, and then even back in like primary school, Bahasa Melayu, I'm okay with it even when you have to write like paragraphs and all that, you know, essays and all that. But I would say I'm more comfortable with English because it's like one with me.
It's one with you.
Yeah. I would prefer writing in English.
Just because of the exposure and the input that you received while growing up, you would say?
I would say that, and maybe my preference, it's more aesthetically pleasing, I guess.
It's more aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
So you do view English in kind of like that sense then?
I do view it that way because like I read sometimes, so when you read those kind of stuff, you try to like understand it from the writer's perspective and some stuff, so obviously you would view it as something like that. I mean, maybe I should start reading Malay books to, you know,
also
find it that way. Yeah.
And finding the beauty in the language.
Finding the beauty in it. I mean, Malaysia, they call it what? Bahasa Baku? Something like that. I feel like there's beauty in it, but I can't speak it like that because I've only known Malay in like book terms. What do you read? How do you talk to people? And those kind of tough stuff, yeah.
Do you think you've ever, while you were growing up, struggled with pronouncing any English words?
Any English words?
Yes.
There are a few. Like one maybe. Enthusiasm. Enthusiasm? No.
Enthusiasm?
Enthusiasm, yeah.
Enthusiasm.
I've always had a problem. Maybe it's because like I'm like, you know, my S.
Do you think you struggle with pronouncing English words just due to your like pelat S, or is there like any more deep reasoning behind?
I don't have pelat S, but I guess we can say that.
I see.
Yeah.
Was there any English words that confused you with their pronunciation whilst growing up learning it? Like, for example, in English you have like silent letters or words that are spelled similar, however are pronounced very differently. Growing up, did you ever get confused about that? Or was it quite easy for you to catch it?
Definitely, I have a few. But now that you've brought it up, I can't seem to think of any. Give me a second. Can't think of any.
Can't think of any.
But there's definitely some words that, you know, confuse me.
Do you think having a teacher guide you through English grammar helped you improve your reading and writing skills that you have now?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you think having a teacher specifically to guide you through English grammar helped you improve your writing and reading skills personally?
For me, having a teacher, from my personal experience, never made any difference to me. Because when I go to school, most of the time it's just to meet friends, to play football and all that. I mean, I liked my English classes. I liked most of my English teachers back in high school. So I would say I learn it better when I'm doing it. When I mix it up with my real life, mix it up with my daily routine, socializing or watching movies, reading books. When you watch movies, you're interested in the movie, so you pick up the words. So when that's not your first language, it would make you think, oh, what does this word mean? What does that word mean? So I feel like that taught me better because I started looking it up. Because when you're interested in something, that's when you will want to learn more. Not when people force you to learn. Not when people tell you that you should do this, or you should do it this way, you should do it that way.
So you would say that you prefer like acquiring a language to things that don't really require purpose, like learning, for example.
I would
It's more
say
to something natural.
I would say that because I know Japanese to a certain extent, and I started learning it because I watched anime, and nobody told me to like, oh, just start learning Japanese. Kind of like did it. I didn't even want to learn. I just caught the words, and like sometimes when I watched the anime, I could understand what they're speaking. So it kind of piqued my interest. So I bought like a dictionary, pocket dictionary, and started learning it by myself. So that helped me in a sense.
So that increased your motivation then. I suppose you already answered this, but I will ask you. Do you find that reading text in English improves your writing skills? Like, for example, reading a novel or reading a news article and whatnot?
100%.
100%.
Because I'm studying English right now, TESOL. But my plan before I started studying was to study history in English or literature, etc., etc. But in Malaysia, you either do foundation or diploma in TESOL first, and then you can proceed with like literature. So my credits for SPM wasn't sufficient for me to do foundation, so I'm doing diploma. I have interest in like writing, journaling, and all those stuff, so I read a lot. I try to reciprocate the things that I read, or try to write it down. I write my own novels, not officially. I try to just write it when I'm bored. So I feel like, yeah,
You think that reading definitely helps improve?
reading definitely helps me improve. In a sense, yeah.
Do you find that gaining feedback on errors help improve your reading or writing skills?
Repeat.
Do you find that gaining feedback on errors that you make whilst using English, for example, help improve your reading or writing skills?
In a sense.
In a sense. Can you explain what you mean by that?
I actually didn't get the question.
It's okay, I'll repeat. Do you find that gaining feedback on errors, for example, you commit a grammatical error and maybe or a pronunciation error, and maybe someone around you is like, oh, that's actually pronounced in this manner and not that way. Do you find that getting feedback in general whilst you're using a language helps improve your reading or writing skills?
It depends on the person.
Depends on the person.
If it's from a person that speaks English every day, that's their first language, I would appreciate that. Maybe it's just my ego thing. I don't like it when like that's your second language too. Maybe I got this wrong, you'll get that wrong. But deep down I appreciate that because we're all learning in a sense. So I feel like that kind of helped me, because when people say that to me, it will be in the back of my head. So I'll do my research on it. How do you pronounce it? How do you write it down? How do you spell it?
Okay. So it does definitely help you then, you would say, cohesively.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
But I feel like when you put it in a sense where you say, when people give you feedback or whatever, it depends on how the person say it. Because if you say it like, oh, you don't know how to pronounce this, when they say it in like a very egotistical and like degrading, maybe you'd feel like, oh, you don't even say this right. So that wouldn't make you want to learn it. That would just, you would just be upset about it. So I feel like it depends on how the person brought it up to you. But I would appreciate it when someone say that. I feel like my English is good, I'm still learning. I'm in uni right now to learn about whatever it is I guess I'm doing. So I guess in a sense, yeah,
feedback does help you improve your reading and writing skills.
Yeah. I would say that.
Do you think that it would help you because it piques your interest in actually researching it, would you say? Or does it help you in a sense that because you just
want to prove them wrong?
Not really. Or does it help you because it immediately kind of reminds you, oh, this is the correct manner to do it? Or is it because you yourself would then have the motivation and interest to further study and make sure, oh, that person was correct? And it makes it more memorable to learn it?
when they correct me, obviously I would have some doubts in me. And then when I actually do my own research, hear the correct pronunciation, and then, oh, that person was correct. I would appreciate them doing that to me. So I would say, yeah, I agree to, like, you know, when it means, what is that? What was it? Like feedback, gaining feedbacks from like your errors helps you in a sense. Yep. That's all from me. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
Okay, thank you so much for being interviewed.
Alright, so hello. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
My name is Muhammad Usman Haziq. I am 24 years old and I am currently enrolled in the BTESOL program at MSU, Management and Science University.
Alright, and today you know that we're going to be interviewing you about language development and literacy development in Malaysia. So, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Alright, so these are just a couple of questions, 5 each. So, we'll start with language development. So, what is your first language and how frequently do you use it in your daily life?
Well, a lot of people assume that my first language is Bahasa Melayu, but because of the conditions of my household, it's actually English. So I'm actually more proficient in English than I am in Bahasa.
So how did that happen?
Well, my dad got a job overseas, and as you'd be surprised, when I went to an international school, not many of the students there spoke Bahasa Melayu. So I had to get a tutor to catch me up on English vocabulary at my age at the time. And now I just ended up using English more even at home because my parents understood it. So what's stopping me from using English?
And how old were you when you started using English like 100%?
When I started using English 100%, I'd say probably around the age 10 is the earliest I can imagine that I probably just used it all the time.
What about before that? What did you use?
Before that, there was a age in my life where my parents, because we're, Malaysian, they tried to get us to use Bahasa at home. So they'd get us to refer to each other as like, oh, abang, kakak, adik. But in the end, that didn't work because all of the TV shows we'd watch, they'd always refer to their siblings by name. So we ended up doing that as well.
So that kind of like influenced your communication.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that sense, do you recall when you were first exposed to English?
When I was first exposed to English, not really. Like if you ask me back then, I'd probably just assume I came out the womb speaking English.
Oh, so it's like right when you were like almost like an infant.
Yeah. Basically my developing years.
Oh, so you could say English is technically your like native language or
Yeah,
first language.
my first language.
So when you were like a toddler, you would speak English regularly.
Toddler? Okay, maybe not that early.
Yeah.
I did go to like a tadika, like preschool in Malaysia for a bit, but then it was only for like a year and a half, and then my parents moved to Qatar.
So then your first exposure would be like right around maybe 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, around that time.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so what's your second language then, would you say?
My second language, Bahasa Melayu.
Bahasa Melayu. Okay, so between English and Bahasa, which one do you use more often?
I use English more often, but as I've grown older, I've subconsciously used different languages to convey specific emotions.
Okay, so in that sense, overall, like if you were to default, which one do you use more often?
Oh, default definitely English.
Okay, why?
Because just normal everyday conversation is usually in English. Like online, the main medium that I use to communicate with other people is just English. I'm not in like any Malay spaces online, so I don't get a chance to use that often. And then when I was even when I was in school, my social setting, most of my friends were very fluent in English as well. So I thought I might as well just use that.
When you say online, do you mean like online forums or online sites? Like what are you using that you have to communicate in English?
Mainly just Discord.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Then moving on from what you said that you adjust your language depending on
Yes,
So,
yes.
do you then adjust your language depending on who you're speaking to, or is it just strictly emotions?
That is something I do, yes. So it's like if I know, like, as I'm growing up, I have a lot of different variety of friends. And if it's someone who doesn't speak a lot of English, they try to, but it's not very, it's like, cool, like it doesn't sound good. I usually just speak Malay to them because I assume they understand Malay better than if I were to speak in English.
Alright, so then, so it depends on the other person's proficiency.
Yes,
So let's say this person can speak both English and Malay perfectly.
right.
Then what language would you use?
Definitely default to English.
Yeah, that's your
That's just my
stage
default.
zero.
Yeah, stage zero.
Alright, so you said that you switch according to emotions. So do you ever code mix or code switch between your Bahasa Melayu and English?
Yes. When I'm happy, I usually just tend to maintain the English throughout the whole thing. But I've noticed that when I get mad, sometimes as I'm getting mad in English, I instantly switch to Malay.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you know why that is?
I think I know why. It's just that I don't know. There's something about the words in Bahasa Melayu that make the anger sound way more hurtful than
Oh,
it would
wow.
be if it was in English.
like sharper, would you say?
Yeah, it's like sharper. It's like it's just okay. Say I call someone like an idiot. Sure, idiot hurts. It's an insulting word. When I say bodoh, oh man, bodoh sounds way more like insulting than it would be.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So you would kind of mix both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mix both depending on.
And Malay is for your emotional scenarios then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it does. I do use it in certain emotional scenarios, but in general social settings, I would probably just use Malay because a lot of people in my lives are Malay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright, that's our first 5 questions. We're moving on to the second half, which is literacy development.
Literacy development.
Yeah, in Malaysia. So
Alright.
do you feel more confident writing in Malay or English?
Writing. I guess I would say I'm more confident writing in English. Even though I didn't really write English as much in comparison to Bahasa Melayu during my high school days, it just comes more naturally to me to write in English.
Oh, what do you mean by you didn't write much in English?
So in high school, we had to write a bunch of essays, and every time I did my Bahasa Melayu class, they always do little nitpicks about wordings I put, and then that I should switch them out. And because my PM was very, not that good at the time, my mother constantly sent me to tuitions. Yeah, so I definitely write way more in Malay than I would in English.
So even though you wrote more in Malay, you say you're more confident in English. Why do you think that is?
Because even though I wrote like pen and paper in Malay, I still type in English.
Oh, so English was kind of like your general form of communication anyway.
Yes. So it's like in online spaces, I just use English, but during classes, I just write in Malay all the time.
Oh, so it's like it's not about convenience. But we're just one is more useful to you than the other.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really
More was just so because I could get more proficient in speaking it rather than me genuinely writing what I feel.
Oh, so you wrote in Malay because it was like an obligation? Then?
Yeah.
And then English was like, oh, I want to.
If I want to express my thoughts, I would most likely write in English.
Okay, so have you ever struggled with pronouncing English words then? Growing up until now?
If we're comparing to like the general Malay populace that I'm familiar with, no, I think I struggle way less in comparison to them. But obviously there are still some words that I struggle to know the words are. But these are basically like very specific words that you wouldn't normally encounter
Oh,
in daily life.
so it's just the words that you don't already use.
Yeah. It's just the words that I don't normally use.
So, yeah, any examples?
Any examples? Okay. So there's this very complicated word that's supposed to mean, it's supposed to be a synonym for trinket. It's like, starts with a T-C-H. I think it has Russian origins, the word. And it's pronounced tchotchkes.
Ah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's spelled really weird, and I didn't know. I think I'm pretty sure I mispronounced it when I first saw it. I was like, this is, this Russian origin word.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense actually. Just like words that you're not familiar with, you don't know how to pronounce. That makes sense.
Yeah. But like I said, that word is very like specific and niche, and you normally wouldn't say it.
So like every other English word, when you first learned them and stuff like that, you would really struggle with pronouncing them. It's almost like you got them right away, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. Alright, do you think like having a teacher in your life like to guide you for English grammar helped improve like either the writing or reading skills? Like how was your teacher helpful in that sense? Because you mentioned a tutor.
Oh, tutor. Well, like I said, the tutor was mainly for Bahasa Melayu classes. In terms of English, I mostly self-studied after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How?
So during English classes, I realized that the English that I learned during my international school days was way more advanced compared to. So I would say my English development kind of stagnated in high school.
Oh, why do you think that is?
Because what was the English proficiency? I was kind of in the higher end of what they expected we would have. So whenever we wrote like essays and stuff, I would write down the words no problem. Grammar, I don't think I had an issue with that. And and the topics weren't that hard to write in a lot of words.
So in that sense, your teachers weren't really helpful because you kind of already had a grasp.
Yeah. I think the only aspect that they probably were helpful in was my speaking, because I was a really shy kid. Yeah. So those classroom presentations, especially this one time where the teacher just let us, during presentations they give you like a title beforehand to discuss about to present. There's this one class where she allowed us to talk about whatever we wanted, and I think that really allowed me to spread my creative wings in terms of speaking to classroom in presentations.
You'd say that your teachers helped you more in speaking because they allowed you to sort of express yourself more.
Yeah, I would
things
say.
like grammar, because grammar you kind of already grasp.
Yeah.
Self-study.
It's basically just rules that I've already learned.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Great. Okay, so do you find reading texts in English help improve your writing skills?
Reading texts in English. I definitely regret not reading more when I was younger, because I'm actually trying to get back into reading now, but I realize it is very difficult. There's just some words that are just very hard for me to visualize without reading a lot beforehand. It's like something if you're just starting to read in a language, like this isn't the book for you.
Oh. So when did you say you started reading that?
I started reading when I was in high school. I started getting into the YA novels like Percy Jackson.
Right. So do you think when you started reading those, did they help your writing in any way?
Help my writing. I guess. I suppose it did. I don't remember. I don't recall any writing of words or the writing of the story that jumped out to me, that encouraged me to be like, oh, so this is how they write it to make it more engaging. But maybe.
Do you think it was maybe more subconscious then?
Could be, could be subconscious. Because I didn't think a lot about writing at the time. I was just, reading. To me, it was just reading a story. But yeah, maybe it could have been subconscious.
Alright, cool. On to our last question. Do you find that gaining feedback on things like errors, like if you messed up on something and someone told you, oh hey, this is how this is pronounced, or this is how it's written, do you think that helped improve your reading or writing skills?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think something that a lot of people aren't keen on helping with is pronunciation. Because what I've noticed in Bahasa Melayu, the pronunciation is not that complicated. If you see a word and it's spelled a certain way, that's probably how it's pronounced.
Right.
Whereas in English, there are a lot of words where certain letters will be silent, some will be elongated, some will, sound different in comparison when they're in other words. And I feel like that's an important aspect that people tend to neglect. One thing my friends, are annoyed about whenever we talk is whenever I correct their pronunciation. They never appreciate it.
You feel like people should help with pronunciation more often?
Yes. I get it. I sound like a bit of a busybody when I do it, right? But it's because I want them to say it correctly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Imagine if they weren't talking to me, they were talking to like a big room full of people that understood English, and they said it wrong. They said a word wrong. That would be way more humiliating.
Right. So I think it's necessary for growth then.
Yeah, I definitely believe that getting feedback on how you pronounce and say words is important for your development as a language speaker.
What about for writing then?
For writing, I think the best way to develop writing is just start reading.
Oh, so you think that's like a correlation there?
There is a correlation between reading and writing. And if you don't want to read but you like writing, you can just get someone's opinion. You can just get someone's opinion on it, even if they're not like an expert writer themselves, like an author or whatever.
Did you ever like write something and get feedback from, let's say, like a friend or a teacher, and that sort of changed the way you wrote or helped improve the way you wrote them?
In terms of, mostly it's just essays that I probably got feedback on from the teacher, but I don't recall a lot of feedback from them. So again, basically stagnated because my proficiency was higher than they expected for someone of my age at the time.
So do you think that maybe if you had because English is taught as like a second language here.
Right,
Do you think if you had like a first language teacher, then that would have helped improve your writing skills more?
Maybe. But at the time, I also did get sick of writing.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because we always had to write essays for our exams and tests. Because, that's probably why my writing also stagnated. I just didn't have the passion for it.
Well, that's all the questions actually.
All right.
Thank you so much for doing this interview. You're giving me a lot to analyze.
No problem.
Alright, so